Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the St. John Plan Commission regular scheduled meeting for August 5th. At this time, if we can stand and give the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Margaret, good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you. How are you?
Good. If I can have you do roll call, please.
Absolutely. Mr. Burleson.
Here.
Ms. Cardona.
Here.
Mr. Gill.
Here.
Mr. Gillette.
Here.
Ms. Little.
Here.
Ms. Wooland.
Here.
Mr. Kennedy.
I am present. We have an...
Mr. Eberly.
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Attorney Decker.
Here.
Mr. Panzik.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a quorum, so we'll continue with the meeting. First on the item is minutes. If for Plan Commission regular meeting minutes, they are still working on transcribing. If I can get a deferral for the June 3rd and July 1st, 2020 meeting minutes, please.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
for the deferral, could we include the July 15th study session as well?
For the board members, if we can make a motion to not only include the June 3rd and July 1st, but July 15th as well. Great catch, Margaret. Thank you.
I move that we.
I make a motion to the minutes for the planning session for June and July, and also the study session in July.
I have a motion by was that Nancy?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I got a motion to defer by Nancy. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second by John Gill. Margaret, do we have to do a roll call, or can we just?
We do need roll call since
We're working
some of our
remotely.
members are attending online. Yes. So, Mr. Burleson,
Yes.
Ms. Cardona,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Wooland,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes. Motion to defer.
Thank you.
Approved. We have the study session. If you had the time to review the May 20th and June 15th, if we can get a motion to approve, or if changes need to be made.
June 17th.
I'm sorry, June 17th.
Make a motion to approve the study session, May 20th and June 17th.
I have a motion by Bob to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second by Donna. Comments, concerns? If not, Margaret, roll call?
Oops, sorry. Thought I unmuted my mic. Mr. Burleson,
Yes.
Ms. Cardona,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Woolen,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes. Motion to
Thank you.
approve for the May 20th and June 17th study session has been approved. Thank you. Next on the agenda is we have a public hearing for Three Springs, Unit 3. Rick, everything in order for the public hearing?
Yes, it is, Mr. President.
Everything is in order. With that, I will turn it over to Doug for, I don't know how many, we should have counted how many presentations you've given on this,
I've
but
totally lost count.
We don't want to know.
No, I don't think I do either.
I sorry I missed the study session of the last one, so forgive me.
Again, for the record, Doug Reddick with DVG, representing Three Springs Development. Mr. Barrick is present tonight if anybody has any questions directly for him. But as we've been discussing the last couple of months, Three Springs Phase 3, the project was approved a little over a year ago, and the one-year primary plat came up and it was not renewed. We have some issues at the south end of the site that we're aware of with pipeline easements and what have you. But we still want to pursue the first phase, which is the north portion of the project, everything north of the pipelines. So what you're looking at on the primary plat for what we're calling Three Springs Phase 3, Block 1, is exactly what was approved a year ago. We just removed the south half of the project. So we have a mix of R1, R2, and R3 lots. That's always been the case. Engineering, we have a letter from Ken, if you need to read that in, but you will, obviously. I think we're in good shape there because, again, it's the same that was approved previously. It's that straightforward. We've presented it, we've had it approved once, and we want to continue with the project, what we're calling Three Springs Phase 3, Block 1.
Very good. Any questions from the board for Doug before we open up to public hearing? Doug, one question. I don't know if I've ever been asked. Outlot A, is it just going to be grass area?
Yeah.
Okay.
The pipeline easements will be an even larger outlot. It'll be part of that.
Okay.
Maintained by the HOA.
Okay. Very good.
If anybody needs a paper copy, I do have paper copies, but I think you all have them on your screen, right?
Any questions from the board?
This is Yolanda. John, if you can give me a second, I'm trying to pull up the picture here on my phone because it's kind of blurry on the screen. But just quick question for Doug. Doug, is there any plans to develop on the pipeline easement? I know that had been an issue before, and as it sits here today, there's no homes on the pipeline, which is good. I mean, that appeases a lot of concerns that the residents have. What are the plans in terms of the easement moving forward?
The south portion of the project will come back before you. We will be seeking revisions to the original plan. We know that's necessary. But at this time, our focus is on the north end of the site. And whatever we do on the south end, we'll be back before you at a study session and we'll talk about it then.
Okay.
But you're correct. None of these lots have any pipeline easements on them.
Okay. And is lot 14 that I see there, is that a home or is that is a home, right?
Lot 14, yeah, that's a large R1 lot.
Okay.
Yolanda, any other questions?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. No, you take your time. If there's no more questions for the board, I will open up the public hearing. Paul, I'm sorry, I didn't grab the sign-in sheet, if anyone signed in to speak. Got a sign-in sheet? Oh, there's nothing else? Okay, that's all you have. All right, Doug, I'll have you sit down, and then we'll begin our public hearing. The first individual to sign their name was Mr. Kane, Wayne Kane. Mr. Kane, thank you for coming tonight. Just for the record, if you would say your name and address, please.
My name is Wayne Kane. I live at 9817 Allison Lane. And apparently, I wasn't here a year ago when this was all approved. This is my third time I've been here. And I was just going to say that I think this is a very important financially for our home values going forward. And if my neighbor across the street needed to get approval from all his neighbors to put up a fence, he had to get signed, registered letters signed at our house. I'm the only one from my subdivision here. And I think the delay, to fewer people, the coronavirus. He had one sign, and I have pictures. He had one sign up that was at a dead end of a road. Nobody traveled there. I talked to other neighbors. Nobody was even aware that this meeting was coming tonight. I think people should be notified, not by a sign on a road, a dead end road, weeds this high covering the sign. I got pictures if you want to see them.
No, Mr. Kane, I have no doubt.
Okay. And I understand that they put a notice in the paper. Does anyone get the newspaper any longer? You do. So you're the only one in this room. Well, I mean, but nobody gets the paper, nobody reads it, nobody reads the notifications. And if I had to sign a permit for my neighbor to put up a fence, Mr. Barrick should have permission from every homeowner in that subdivision to go forward with a variance that affects our home values. I'm proof that I'm the only one in the whole damn subdivision. And I just think he should notify everybody that what he plans to do, lowering the lot sizes, the type of homes he's building affects our value of our homes. That's my suggestion.
All right, Mr. Kane, thank you. And Mr. Kane, just for the record, Rick, can you?
Let's
I-
make the record
I'm just
clear.
gonna, Mr. Kane, while you sit down, I'm just gonna have Rick explain how everyone follows the same standards for notification for our primary plat. I'm gonna defer to Rick, because he knows it inside and out. So Rick, if you would, for the record, explain how notification is sent out on this.
There are statutory requirements as well as local requirements. Our local requirements for notification exceed the statutory requirements. We require a notice to be placed in 2 newspapers, and I completely agree with you, sir. Very few people get their information from this portion of the newspaper, but it's a requirement. The developer followed that requirement. Developer has to contact by certified mail, return receipt requested, all landowners within 300 feet of the property that he is seeking to, that you see on the screen there. He did that, notified all of those folks by letter, and he has to put a sign on the subject property. That's our rule, not a state rule. That's our requirement. He has to put the sign on the property that the notice serves, and that's the only place that I know of on that property that is visible at all, is at the end of that road. So the notification was done properly. It complies with state law and with local rule. And this is not a variance he's seeking, excuse me. The zoning's been in place for some time. It's R1, R2, R3, and all of the lots in all of those zoning classifications meet or exceed the minimum lot sizes, square foot sizes in those zoning districts. So this is not smaller lots. This is not a request for smaller lots. It meets or exceeds the lot sizes in all 3 zoning districts.
Thank you, Rick. Next on the list is a David Servin. Mr. Servin, thank you for coming tonight. Again, if you would, name and address, please, for the
Sure.
record.
My name is David Servin. I'm actually Mr. Barrick's and Three Springs' attorney. My address, my office address is 900 Ridge Road in Munster, and my home address is 8419 Bering in Munster. I was here years ago on this particular phase. Back in March of 17, I looked at my notes, and that's just half the file. And at that time, as I understand, that was like the 9th revision. And now here we are 3 years later, and I went through your minutes, and I read, and I listened to the minutes as recently as June 3rd, I guess, when Mr. Barrick filed, or when Three Springs filed a request to extend the 1-year period because it didn't get accomplished within a year. And I listened to everything that was said, and I listened to the comments, and I heard from Ms. Cardona that acknowledged on that tape at 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 44 seconds into the hearing that she knew that this subdivision, this plat, met all the standards back in March of 19 when it was approved. Ms. Woland, also on that, said the same thing, that all the standards were met. And for some reason, the motion to, the petition to extend was denied, and that's been the first and only time, as I understand, something like that's ever happened. I guess what I had to just want to say is, if it was okay in March of 19 and met all the standards, and nothing has changed, with the exception that he's not even trying to get the property south of the pipeline. It's just everything that's north of it, and like I said, it was all approved. Everyone acknowledged that it meets the standards, so I just don't see any real basis at all why his petition should be denied him. You know, this has been going on for years and years, and you know, I haven't been here for much of them, but you know, it's costing him a fortune to keep tweaking this thing. And I think if it's met the standard, it's met the standard, and I just can't see any reason why it should be denied. I know there's some concerns about this pipeline, and that the council might have passed an ordinance or considered an ordinance. I see it's on the agenda today, so I'm not even sure if that the new ordinance has even been passed. But this petition that we're here on today was filed before the town council ever took that issue up. So
It is.
it all
Correct.
I go back to 19 of March, where it was all fine, met standards. And okay, we didn't get the extension, but we refiled, and we did the refiling properly, and it's been advertised, and I listened to the minutes, or the study session that took place. So it just seems to me that I can't fathom why it should be denied. I think it would just be, you know, there'd be no rational basis for it at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time speaking. No one else signed up, but I will offer anyone else that is here tonight the opportunity to speak. If you want to come up and again, name and address, please. One more time. Final time before I close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Doug, I'll bring it back up to you. I'll bring the discussion point back up to the board. Board, any questions, comments regarding to Doug at this time? If not, I will entertain a motion regarding the primary plat. Oh,
John, I
I'm
just
sorry.
wanted,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Just, I need to read in Ken Krause's letter for the record. He has sent the board a letter, and I will read it, so bear with me. It says, "We have reviewed the primary plat for reference project and have the following comments. 1, this subdivision project includes 13 R1 lots, 7 R2 lots, 3 R3 lots, 2 outlots, streets and associated facilities and utilities to be built on 21.120 acres. 2, we have completed our review and find the certified plans to be satisfactory. Temporary turnarounds at each of the dead-end streets should be required until such time as these streets are extended. These turnarounds are not shown on these plans. 3, the development fee has not been established at this time. It will be based on 2% of the construction costs of public improvements as supplied by the developer or a certified estimate by the developer's engineer. 4, stormwater pollution prevention plan, aka SWIP, is included in the project plans but has not been reviewed at this time. The fee for this review will be determined at the time of review." So Yolanda, I know you want to speak. After you speak, if we do have if we entertain a motion, please reference the finding of facts. The finding of facts is this letter, which will require the turnarounds and development fees and things like that. So Yolanda, I'll turn it over to you.
No problem. Thank you, John. I just wanted to go ahead and address something that was brought up by Attorney Servin. I think that it would be worthwhile for us to point out that obviously situations like this where there's a lot of public outcry in terms of the issues that this development has presented from day one it cannot be resolved in one meeting. So, to the extent that we are here, we have to listen to the concerns that the neighbors have and the people that live in this subdivision, not because I live here myself, but because people have legitimate concerns. And unfortunately, it has taken a long time. And that's just sort of the nature of the beast, right? Sometimes developments like this with issues that were pretty evident when the property was purchased sometimes take time to resolve, and unfortunately it has taken a long time. That's just the way that it has been. So I want to point out that maybe it hasn't been the planning commission's fault or anybody's fault. It's just been that it's taken long to address the concerns of the neighbors. And then also to the point about the last denial of the extension, that's wholly discretionary. So the planning commission has discretion to extend these extensions of time to build or not. And we reserve that discretion. And if on our discretion we decide to deny something, we reserve that right. So I think that, to question our discretion is just probably not the best thing to do, but the discretion is there for a reason. So I just wanted to go ahead and point that out. I've had concerns with this property from day one, not just because I live here, but because of all the issues that we've had. But I'm fine with what he's presenting today. It does address some of the concerns that the residents had, which was the pipeline. He's not putting homes on the pipeline. So I think he's, we've come a long way, and I think that this is doable.
Thank you, Yolanda. Any other questions, comments from the board?
Mr. President, just for sake of clarity, we actually do have findings of fact for a primary plat request, and there are 7 items on it, and I would give this to whomever is inclined to make the motion. Obviously, I can't give it to anyone who's attending virtually, but if one of the members that's here is inclined to make a motion, I can hand this to them, and he or she can read the findings of fact and have them referenced as part of the motion, if you'd like to do that. But the point is, Mr. Kraus's letter does not constitute the findings of fact. These are the findings of fact.
Do you want me to read that, and then anyone?
Sure.
On the-
And
That's right.
as with all findings of fact, there's the option of does or doesn't, will or won't.
Oh, then the person that needs to make the motion needs to read this.
Well, we'll need to say whether it does or doesn't. Yes.
Okay.
So that's why I was gonna make it available to whomever might feel inclined to make the motion,
You're looking at
either
me.
way.
Is there anyone here that would want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
I know, Rick, in the past, we just referenced a finding of fact. Can we do that at this time, or do we have to read that?
You can, and when you just,
I know I made the
Let me
wrong
just-
assumption when I said
Right.
include this in the finding.
let me give you a for instance, and Adam can correct me if I'm wrong, but if the motion is to approve the primary plat, then it has to positively, the findings of fact have to positively reflect that. You can't have any one of the findings of fact that says does not, for example, provide for the public health, safety, and welfare. That cannot be, you can't have a negative finding in an approval.
All 7 have to be positive.
To defeat, if the motion is to deny the application, then it could be a mix of positives and negatives, but I think I'm saying that right. In order to approve it, it has to be 100% positive. Am I saying that right, Adam, or would you?
I believe so. Without having reviewed the proposed findings, I believe that's a correct statement.
So if the motion is to approve, and you get a motion and a second, then you can simply reference the findings of fact, and I will fill that out accordingly. If it's to deny, then I think you're going to want to go through each one of them and say whether it does or doesn't meet the comprehensive plan or health, safety, and welfare, traffic circulation, whatever the condition is.
But should you also refer to this letter as well? I don't think we've done that. We just read it into the record. Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to do that.
Okay, very good. I apologize for that, Ms. Eric.
And we don't have a copy of that. There's only the one copy here for the.
Of the findings of fact, yes.
So am I
Yes.
reading it or not?
I would like to hear it.
Okay, you're going to read it.
Okay.
First make your motion, then you got to read it.
Want to make a motion for Three Springs Phase 3, Unit 3, favorable recommendation.
It's actually an approval at your level, Mr. Burleson, so you would make a motion to approve. the
Make a
primary
motion to
plat.
approve Three Springs Phase 3, Unit 3,
Block 1.
Block 1.
You got to read them. Donna, want you?
That the plat does provide for acceptable establishment of minimum width, depth, and area of lots within the subdivision inasmuch as it does meet with minimum requirements of the St. John zoning ordinance. That the plat does provide for acceptable minimum provisions for building separation, vehicular circulation and parking, compatible site improvements and signage inasmuch as it does meet the minimum requirements of the St. John zoning ordinance. That the plat does provide for the coordination of subdivision streets and entrances with existing and planned streets and highways. That the plat does provide for the coordination with an extension of facilities, including in the comprehensive master plan, including appropriate sanitary, sewer, water, and storm water facilities. That the plat does provide for the fair allocation of areas for streets, parks, schools, public and semi-public buildings, homes, utilities, businesses, and industry. That the plat does provide for distribution of population and traffic in a manner tending to create conditions favorable to health, safety, convenience, and harmonious development of the town of St. John, inasmuch as this development is in the compliance with the goals and requirements of the town of St. John Comprehensive Master Plan currently in effect. Number 7, that the plat, including the entire layout of the subdivision, as well as how the plans affect the surrounding area, does promote the health, safety, morals, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare of the town of St. John.
So I have a motion referencing finding of facts. Is there a second?
I'll second Bob's motion.
I got a second. Questions, comments before roll call? Margaret, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Ms. Cardona?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion approves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, item G, Continental Unit 2 petitioner seeking secondary plat. Slager, how are you, sir?
Good. Good evening, Jack Slager with Schilling Development, representing Hickory Terrace Development, the developer of the Continental. We are seeking final plat approval or secondary plat approval for Unit 2 of the Continental. This is 14 lots on one cul-de-sac, heading to the northeast of the development. Last year, we developed 17 lots as part of Phase 1. As of now, the improvements are complete, the roads are in, all but the surface coat, and we paid the development fee and the bond yesterday, so all the fees are also paid. So we brought the Mylars with us tonight and are hoping for a favorable approval on the secondary plat.
Very good.
And I will confirm what Mr. Slager said. We have received the payment for those development fees, and we have received, in this case, a cash escrow because for the letter of credit, because the amount was so low. It was, I believe, $5,500, Jack,
Correct.
if I recall. Actually, the development fee was higher than the letter of credit
Yep.
in this case, which is unusual.
Questions, comments from the board for Mr. Slager? If not, I will read. Again, I have a letter from Ken regarding secondary plat for this subdivision. I will read it for the record. 1, this subdivision project includes 14 residential lot, one outlot, and associated facilities on 9.8 .97 acres. 2, we have reviewed the plat and find it to be satisfactory. 3, the development fee for this project is $7,023.64. 4, the streets and curbs are privately owned and maintained. All public improvements are done except for the as-built drawings and some erosion control measures. A letter of credit in the amount of $5,500 or a surety bond in the amount of $6,500 should be submitted to the town, which we know has been, to cover these costs. That is a letter from Ken. If not, I will entertain a motion.
And again, Mr. President, you have the copy of the findings of fact in this case for a secondary plat for a PUD development such as this. So there are some conditions, and again, you can have them read by whomever makes the motion, or you can reference them depending on what the motion is.
So if you're making approval for the secondary plat, you can reference the motion or reference the finding of facts. If not, or if you still, we could still read the finding of facts.
Want to make a motion to approve the Continental Unit 2 and findings of facts.
I have a motion to approve secondary plat referencing finding of fact. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Yolanda, I'll give it to you. Is that Yolanda?
It was Nancy.
I'm sorry, Nancy. I'll get I'll learn your voices sooner or
problem.
later. So second to Nancy, roll call, please, or got a first and a second. Comments, discussion? Nope. Margaret, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Ms. Cardona?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion for secondary plat approved. Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda, item H. Okay. It's right there. The subdivision control ordinance, the council took some action. There has been some, since our last approval of amendments to the.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
This may be a question for Mr. Eberly, but do we need a recommendation for the town council to accept, for a recommendation to the town council? For the escrow check?
Oh, good point.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Margaret, thank you for keeping me on my toes. At the, secondary plat approved, now we need a recommendation for the town council to accept the check for $5,500 for the development fee, what do we call these fees?
The letter of credit.
Letter of credit, thank you. So if I could get a motion to a recommendation to approve letter of credit, $5,500.
I make a motion for the council to approve the $5,500 letter of credit for Intercontinental.
So I got a motion by Nancy for letter of credit recommendation of acceptance of $5,500. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second by Donna. Comments, questions? If not, Margaret, roll call.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Ms. Cardona?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes. Recommendation approved. Right, back to number H. A additional amendments to our subdivision control ordinance has been recommended by the town council. They need our approval for the recommendation. I believe everyone has received a copy of the recommended changes or recommendation to be added to our subdivision control ordinance. If, Adam, we just need to make a approval of these amendments to be added to, do they need to reference resolution, I think it's 17, 07?
Well, it's the ordinance 1707.
Well, how would the best motion be? First, is there any discussion or comments? And then if there's a motion or recommendation, I just want to make sure.
First of all, for a comment, we went through these list of changes at our last meeting, and they are the last 2 pages of the handout that you have in front of you. And they were also supplied to those that are attending virtually. So we have the list of those changes that the council is asking you to accept and incorporate into the subdivision control ordinance.
Yes, Mr. President, according to state statute, if the Plan Commission approves the amendments at tonight's meeting, then the ordinance that was adopted by the town council will stand as passed as of the date of the filing of the Plan Commission's report of approval, which would be done subsequent to tonight's meeting.
Very good. So without further ado, if there's any questions or comments regarding the amendments that are listed, I will entertain a motion to accept these additional amendments to our subdivision control ordinance.
Want to make a motion to, for the subdivision control ordinance approval?
Mr. Burleson, if I may, could you amend your motion to simply make a motion to approve the amendments to the subdivision control ordinance as adopted by the town council?
Make a motion to approve the amendments to the ordinance adopted by the town council.
I have a motion by Bob. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Donna. Comments, questions, discussion? If not, Margaret, roll call.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Ms. Cardona?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Wooland?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes. Motion for amendment to be added to the subdivision control ordinance has been approved. Next on the agenda, I, public hearing announcements. These will be on our agenda for our September, I don't know the date. September 2nd meeting. We have 4, so everyone make sure you're well hydrated. We have the Gates of St. John Pod 21B primary plat public hearing. We also have the Preserve West rezoning public hearing, Greystone Unit 3 rezoning public hearing, and the Preserves East rezoning public hearing. Those will all take place on September 2nd, 2020. With that, public comment, I will open the floor to anybody who would like to speak. Go. Hello. Thank you. Name and
Teresa Burleson, 9520 Joliet Street. With regard to one of the gentlemen who spoke earlier about the publications for public hearings in town, I just think maybe it might be something that the town consider maybe publicizing more of these hearings on social media sites. I don't know if Town of St. John has, you know, a Facebook page or something to make the whole town aware. And I think because the more people in town that are aware of what's going on, the more input we'll get, and you as board members will have more of a consensus of what the people in the town really would like to see happen and what direction the town should be going. And it might make your jobs easier. So just a comment from the gentleman earlier. Thank you.
Great comment, by the way. Thank you. And do we have a Facebook?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Teresa, and thank you for that comment. I know when I send my agendas out, BZA and Plan Commission, I send them also to Beth Hernandez, and I believe, I don't know, Donna, if you know, she posts them.
She does post them on the clerk treasurer's Facebook page.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of times she will share them to the St. John, Indiana page as well.
Yeah, and yes, because I know she's got like a, I don't want to say this incorrectly, but she's got like a group of people who will specifically ask for agendas, and she'll send them to them as well, like a distribution list is what I mean to say. I don't know who's on that, whomever wants to be on that can be, but I know she makes that available on, as Donna said, her site. And then we, Jason's not in the room now, but Jason posts it on the town's website as well, as soon as I get those agendas to him.
Okay,
So,
very good.
I will say that they are hard to find unless it's on the main page. If you have to search for it, it's very difficult to locate.
okay, so maybe we
Make
might
it more
want to look
prominent.
for an easier place to put it,
Right.
or more okay, sure, we can do that. But thank you, Teresa.
Rick, Adam, Councilman, any comments before I adjourn?
Jason, I don't know,
I
Jason
think
might have.
Jason might be able to, when I send you my agendas and you say they're posted on the website, where are they posted? Can you tell us?
They're posted on the town website. If you go to residents, minutes/meetings, you'll see that there's an agenda page, and all the agendas will show up on that web page.
Okay.
As far as posting to the social media, yes, the town of St. John does have a Facebook account of its own, which is separate from the clerk treasurer's one. I can post those there as well.
Okay.
Might be a good idea.
Because I agree,
Wouldn't
wherever
hurt.
we can post it is just so much the better, yeah.
It wouldn't hurt, and even if someone were to search it on Facebook and find the page, then they could scroll through the posts and see agendas, so wouldn't harm anything.
But I completely agree with the gentleman's comment, and in fact, I've said this to the BZA and Plan Commission when we were revising our rules 3 years ago, that we require a petitioner to publish notice in 2 newspapers at least 15 days in advance of the public hearing. State law only requires 1 publication, and that to be at least 10 days in advance. So we're more restrictive, but it costs a person, depending on the size of the ad, but a typical ad costs $175 to place in the newspaper, and almost nobody gets their information that way. I'd like to see, and we're going to be talking about revising our rules and regulations, I'd like to see us go back to the state regulation and only require it in 1 newspaper, just for that reason, because I think it's a waste of anybody's money. I'm not concerned about a developer who's in here developing, sorry, Jack, but a 150 lot subdivision, what's a $175 a notice in the paper to you? But to particularly at the BZA level, somebody seeking a variance for, anything simple, a shed, a deck, or whatever it might be, they're going to have $350 wrapped up into legal notices that people don't see. And I guess I just feel for those folks at that level that I don't think that's necessary. So I completely agree with the gentleman about putting it in the newspaper. I think it's a waste of time, but we have to do at least 1 per state law. So we make it a little bit more restrictive or more difficult, I guess.
Thank you, Rick. Board members, final comments before I adjourn? If not, everyone be safe. We'll see you in a couple weeks.